Hello, and here we go with Wednesday's World Economic News, and we start with Fox News and this map that they've put up on the television. Probably best if you stop the either audio or video that you're playing at the moment until you've found the deliberate mistake that Fox News has put in this map. Okay, when you get going again, you get this bonus picture, which is from the website that I got that Fox News map from, and this was in the first comment, and I thought it was fun enough to put in here. But let's get on with more serious stuff from Doug Short and Personal Consumption Expenditure Index for December. Yeah, it sounds a bit heavy, but it's more than vaguely important. The December Personal Income Outlays report was published today by the Bureau of Economic Analysis. The chart below shows the monthly year-over-year change in the Personal Consumption Expenditures (PCE) price index since 2000. I've also included an overlay of the core PCE, which is the less food and energy job that people get annoyed with, which is a key measure watched by the Fed as a gauge of inflation, and that's the interesting bit of this. Now here's the chart. You can see the red line is the headline rate and the blue is the core, and the core is down at 0.7, where the Fed would like it at 1.75 to 2, so it's well low according to what the Fed would like it to be, and at 0.7 that's showing deflation, or probably technically disinflation would be the better way of putting it. Let's pop over to the New York Times and Paul Krugman, and he gives us a very similar thing, but this is from the Atlanta Fed, and it's what is described as flexible and sticky, which is similar sort of stuff. Sticky is without the food and energy, and the flexible is with the energy and food, which wobbles around all over the place. And as Paul says, you can clearly see how erratic the flexible prices are and why it is better to base policy on the sticky prices. But note again, the sticky prices is down where the other one was, far too low for the Fed's liking. And later in the article he writes, as it turns out, the Atlanta Fed also addresses the issue of whether recent disinflation is all about housing prices by producing a measure of sticky prices ex shelter. And here's this chart below. You've got to call them graphs, by the way, not charts. In this chart below, 12-month inflation rates, and as you can see, the sticky is blue, and sticky ex shelter with housing taken out is in red, and again still too low for the Fed's liking. Back to Doug Short for the next chart, which is real disposable income per capita, obviously still in the United States. He's put the red line through to show you basically it's a bottom left top right sort of action, but it's fallen off now since the recession started 2007, and isn't getting going back up that angle again yet. Naked Capitalism, Eve. I've just pulled these recent articles out so you can follow them if you wish, but there's the Satya Das one, Derivatives Regulation Dance, and they're just dancing round the regulation, but perhaps it's best that they do. Guest post, former director of the CIA's Counter-Terrorism Center says that American policy in the Middle East is failing because the US does not believe in democracy. But I try to understand that it would be very hard for them to believe in democracy for those Arab people who obviously don't know what is best for them. Next one is the FCIC report, which was the Washington whitewash-ish report, misses central issue. Why was the demand for bad mortgage loans? Where was the demand for bad mortgage loans coming from? The answer, I haven't actually read that one, but the answer would be private label, mortgage-backed security, investment banking, sinkhole, and US State Department position on Egypt. Very difficult. Should the US have a position on Egypt? Of course it should. It's the biggest, greatest power in the world, and a lot rides on what the US State Department's position on Egypt is, like it or not. Economy Watch: capital controls key part of emerging market investor consensus. In China and Taiwan, regulators are imposing fresh restrictions on stock market investments by foreigners. In Brazil, officials have twice raised taxes on foreign investors. Even in South Korea, pressure is building on the government to take similar steps. An increasing number of emerging market powers have either imposed curbs or are in the process of doing so. This next one is Danny Roderick's web blog. He and many other economists have written to Hillary Clinton, Tim Geithner and Ron Kirk to say, look, we need these capital controls to keep things under control. But it's too difficult to regulate. But capital controls are in, and they will be staying. FT Pink Picks, which is the blurbs for the various articles of the day. Richard Dobbs and Michael Spence writes an article entitled "The Era of Cheap Capital Draws to a Close." Even as brewing currency wars threaten full-blown trade conflicts, we must remember one fact: this moment will not last. The 30-year era of progressively cheaper capital is nearing an end. The global economy will soon have to cope with too little capital, not too much. There are actually two things there. The 30-year era of progressively cheaper capital is nearing an end, obviously, because interest rates are now at zero, so can realistically only go up. And the global economy will soon have to cope with too little capital, not too much. That's a quantity of capital issue. And as I mentioned week before last, I think it was, the world, something or other, was saying that the world will need 100 trillion of new capital in the next decade. Where is it to come from? And at what price? And will it arise? Back to the United States and Fannie Mae percentage of loans seriously delinquent per total number of loans. It has come down from its worst, as you can see on the chart there. But it stopped coming down nicely like it was, and starting, if that levels out, that will level out at far too high a number, very, very uncomfortable, and will put real pressure on the American housing market. Economy Watch: coal campaign contributions capture Congress. Nice one. Is that alliteration? I think it is. Coal campaign contributions capture Congress. As President Obama makes it ever clearer his incomprehensible desire to do even more for the corporate sector than he is already, one industry that will certainly be reaping rewards is the coal industry, whose contributions in the 2010 midterm elections were even greater than during the presidential year of 2008. That's only going to get worse, isn't it? Yes, it is, Nick. Over the last 2 years, the coal industry, along with its allies in oil and gas, electric utilities, manufacturing and agriculture, effectively killed any prospect for climate change legislation in the near future. Not only that, they're going to maintain their feathered nests with their contributions, and that is the way it's moving. Finish with OPEC quotas, output and cheating, which is an interesting little chart. The thick blue line is quota, as in what they say output from OPEC should be. And as you can see, it's dropped down as the price dropped down at early 2009, when it dropped down towards $30 a barrel. So they dropped the quotas down. But as you can see, the cheating in green increased as that happened. And the output is not as high as it was. So the idea there is that OPEC does have a couple of million barrels a day up its sleeve to put onto the market if there really is a crunch, in principle. But the other understanding from that is that they have up their sleeves can only last for another couple of years. and life goes on longer than that. That's it for today. Thank you. Bye.